My name is Erika Murcia, and I am the author of TEJIENDO, our poetic rematriation with Mother Earth. It's a book published by Samsara Editorial in Mexico in November 2024. And today, I am really, really grateful. I'm acompañada by Nicole Gervacio, who is the illustrator of TEJIENDO. And welcome, Nikki. Thank you so much for accepting this to have this conversation with me.
Yeah, I'm so grateful. It's always a pleasure when we're talking together.
So I can't believe that, I mean, we have been collaborating through other creative co-creations, and that's how I met you, and that's how I got to know the various skills, creative skills that you carry, and the medicine that you carry within your hand, within your heart. And so we met in 2021, doing together what it became a podcast that is called Somos Semillas, We Are Seeds. And it's a production by rites, which is one of the your projects. And so for that podcast, you created an art piece that is really beautiful. And that piece really struck my heart. I was like, if Nikki can do this type of like artful and complex, because that's not my, that's not my skill. I love it though. And so as we reflect, backwards, what did it emerge for you when I asked you in 2022 or 2023, would you be interested to be the illustrator of my upcoming book?
I got a big smile when you started to tell that timeline, because I forget how much joy that piece that we created with Somos Semillas brought me, because I don't share this often, but a lot of my art through art school was very muted and like kind of like a different flavor. Like a lot of my art was black and white or neutrals, and that piece that we created together, Somos Semillas, was like rainbows and bright colors, and it just like it opened up and released something in me. And so when you invited me to illustrate, give the face of your book, the imagery, I was very intimidated, because that felt like a huge responsibility. But also because we had already collaborated, I was like, no, this makes sense. Like, I know you, the work that we do, we understand each other. And I think that was really important, to be able to trust that whatever came from this collaboration was going to feel good and aligned. But yeah, I was nervous at first, because it is like, I want to do justice to, the visioning that you have, to the work that you've created. But also because we had some experience, it made me feel ready to do it.
Great. Thank you so much for accepting. As you were sharing, I realized that since 2020, and I began writing my book in 2018. And so I realized that doing things virtually, it has its complexity, right? Because it's not the same thing when you're in the same place and we can talk through things. And so we didn't really meet, had these many meetings. But when we met, I remember, it was on point what is the visioning that is. And I remember I actually was looking at today at the, I need to process the things through writing. I was looking at the 5 stages and how the visioning, right? Like when I was sharing with you. And then I also share with you the manuscript briefly, just for you to kind of, so how or more than how, what's your process?
Mm,
Your process. I want to know more about that because behind the, I know what you gifted me so beautifully, but I want to know what's your process as an artist in this
mm,
reality.
yeah, yeah. Like I shared, I went to art school, but I actually studied illustration. So it's funny, I'm like, even though I'm technically trained to do this, it's still intimidating to me because as an artist, again, I could feel in myself the wanting to do the best and do justice to the piece, especially when it's like not just my piece, it's in collaboration with someone. But I also realized I move way slower than um, the experience I had in art school allowed me to move. So the reason why I felt like I was able to do this was because we had slowly built relationship through the other collaboration, but also in the way that you talked about your book and your writing. It's a lot of listening. And I do think that's one of my magic powers, if I were to like explain it in that way, is listening to someone and doing my best to understand the flavors, the sounds, the purpose, the energy, and doing my best to allow the imagery, the symbolism, the weaving of all these images coming together to portray that purpose or that message. So I feel like it's a lot of listening and a lot of internal work. And then the translation from the internal, the reflections and the memories and the processing to hand is like a huge, that's the intimidating part, is to like bring this to like a physical place. Um, yeah, and the sketching was very fun to like start to pull these strands of like symbols and meanings. And then just like it's kind of the fun, challenging part is like the I guess refining, but it's just like adjusting, shifting like in these subtle ways to find harmony in the visualizations. So that's when it gets really fun. Is like, oh, like I know what it's gonna look like. I know what pieces need to come together, but like the shifting to make it feel harmonious and like together is kind of the fun part.
Can we show the image that first
Yeah,
sketch?
the sketch, yeah, please pull it up. And I have the book here too. So I see it behind you, but
Yeah, well, I wanted to speak first of, I would
Mhm,
like to hear more about the detail because
mhm,
when you show me these, right, that is the first thing that you said, oh, from where all the um parts of the book, the
mhm,
content and what I have shared, um, you said that this is what you capture, right? Or I don't know if that's the word, but what you listened to, what spoke to you. And so
mhm,
when you show me these, I wanted like these, but I already had this vision of the color, right? So I remember being like, gosh, this is so beautiful. I love lapis. I don't know how do you call this medium, but so I want you to talk about because it's two things that you did. It's
mhm,
two pieces.
mhm. Yeah, so I think here the challenge was giving respect to all the symbols because not not one specifically is right. It all needs to come together because all of them are speaking to each other and telling a story. And you could kind of see it in this sketch. But there was already this beginning part of playing with light. And this really comes, that's the other challenging fun part was playing with light and darkness. And that really came together in the color version. But this one was like getting the balance of like size of each pieces. Like the snake could be a bigger snake if you wanted to, but trying to find balance between like what the snake is engaging with, like the delicateness of the crescent moon, or like the braid could be a tiny braid, or it could be a really big piece. Like it's just like finding the balance between how each of the important symbols interact with each other. So it's like a dance. Oh my God, it's so funny because I'm like, I say this all the time. I'm like, there's so many different projects that we've done together where it can feel like a dance. And this is also how sketching, drawing, ideation, like coming into like the tangible, it becomes a dance.
Yeah. Exactly this thing about the softness
Mm.
and I don't know what would be the opposite, energetically speaking, right? The softness, the subtleness,
Bold, maybe boldness.
boldness. Yes, this is what I felt after when you give. Um, I am so grateful that I went to your land, to where you grew up, where you were born and raised, in California, and be able to hold this baby that you gifted me the piece, which it was, big to carry on my suitcase. But that's what I don't have it here. I had to, right now it's being taken care of in another home. But I remember that incredible sense of texture that when you touch the painting and like these, I don't know, do you call scales of the serpent? It's just so,
Mm,
it feels so alive, bold and soft too, like,
mm,
subtle. And so this is a códice. In Mesoamerican traditions, this is a codex, which is,
mm,
you really embrace it. Uh, it's taking the mythology of my birth story across 3 generations, right? My mom, like my relationship with my mother and my relationship with my grandmother, and bringing that matrilineage relationality and abundance into the content of what I brought. But I didn't want words in what you were creating, and even the names. Well, I remember we had the names a little bit like in the middle, and I was like, no,
yeah.
it ruins the whole. And I wanted in my heart, what the book Tejiendo, our poetic rematriation with Mother Earth, was calling from me was that the cover, the illustration would speak by themselves, right? That there wouldn't be, and then that it would captures people attention, would provoke something in people's heart when they hold it. And remember, we had some friends looking at the image just for a few days, and without
Yeah.
them nothing about the book, nothing about what it was for, but
It
that.
was kind of beautiful. Yeah, it was. So when Eddie was visiting, we had some incredible friends that happened to be visiting in town too. And we were at our friend's parents' home, and I had put the painting up on like a little altar that we had ended up creating for the night. We had a dinner together. And I forgot about that, but I loved how people were so called in, and like even if they had no idea what it was about, it drew them in. And people spent time with it. That was really beautiful. Thank you for remembering that. And yeah, and like I said, the dark and light, I think from across a room, if you saw this, the light calling you in certain areas and like the glowing. My favorite part is was doing this part, just like that little bit of
Mhm.
glow from the crescent moon.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, it already tells the story, whether or not people know what the symbols mean, or like it's already giving a feeling. It makes you travel through the space, just trying to like read and understand what's happening. And like you said too, initially the sketch that we had shown had our names here, but then if our names were there, we wouldn't be seeing how
The
the
colors.
braid,
Yes.
interacts with the corn, or that there's like soft rain coming down gently. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's just so many poetic moments in this piece that um you think that there's one favorite place, but then your eyes just keep moving and you're like, there's so many beautiful moments from the
It's a
dark night.
journey.
Yeah.
And you draw, you really care, like birth, spring forth all these images and vision from the unknown, and the sacred darkness. And so especially the milpa, remember I told you, like, I do want the element of the storm, right? But how storm is fertilizing the land, the soils, and the ecologies, but then how the water with earth grow the food that has sustained me, which I speak in the book about, right? And the milpa, the three sisters, you did it so beautifully. Like, I relate a lot with ayote, with squash, because it's kind of like subtle. It has big leaves, but it's like rooted on earth. And the corn tends to go up, and it's like, I am here. And then the beans go around the corn. And so, but so I love how you capture, or how you really painted the subtleness of ayote, of squash, the how do you say vines?
The
Going
vine.
vine, yeah, spreading, because they hold on to everything, and it's just a metaphor of a lot of what I am, the stories that I created in the book. Yeah.
Yeah. It's when we talked about this, when this was just purely ideation and you were sharing how you wanted the storm to be nurturing the three sisters. I'd learned of this, unfortunately not in school because some colonial situations, but like when I learned about how these three plants nurtured each other and like the powerful meaning and history of those indigenous like practices, I felt also again intimidation to be portraying them on, like, can I do them justice? So I spent a lot of time researching too. So like spent time researching, looking at snakes, looking at the three sisters. And what's really beautiful is I was walking down the street and a neighbor has had like two things of corn right in front of their house. And it was like not even a big yard. It's like the skinniest, like maybe 1 foot, like, and there's corn growing here. And I was like, what is it doing here? Like, it's like a lot of manicured yards. And so I got to see it, corn's growing on its own, not the monoculture kind of corn. And I just spent time just staring at her. And then the next time, because this project was very long, I visited my partner's mom and like parents, and she had a beautiful garden, and I took photos of some of her corn. And so that became a reference photo for the corn that's here.
Yeah.
Because
And
there's
I
only
sent
so much you
you.
can research online, but to be in
With the
person and to
plant.
really look at it and to see how it moves is different than a photo that you look up on the internet.
Yeah. And I feel that part of this collaboration is also a decolonizing work, because I know part of your story and your ancestors, and I truly sacredly believe that my ancestors and your ancestors made this happen, that we would cross paths, and that now we would have an opportunity to also learn through different mediums about each other's abundance that we carry, right? And so I remember one moment we were having a meeting, a conversation about our other collaboration, and you said, because I'm a listener too, right? I'm listening with depth, with heart. And you said, we are long distance cousins, primos, primas.
Mhm.
And that was so tender for my heart. Like I could feel it. Like it wasn't just saying it to say it. So I wanna hear a little bit of, what also you bring into the, because one thing is that you were illustrating and putting color to the book cover. And but what of your mythology or your stories you're bringing into the artfulness.
Mm. Yeah, thank you for bringing that back. And for context too, the way I describe that Eddie and I are like long distance cousins is because so I'm Filipino. My people come from the islands known as the Philippines, but they specifically come from Luzon. They come from the Visayas. And there was a teacher that I learned from that reminded us what in like a talk that we have to look at the ocean as something that connects us. Like that's historically what, especially island people, like the water connects us, and yet colonial mindset has us thinking that we're separated by water or that there's these borders that don't exist, they're man-made. And so when my brain started to like decolonize the way I look at the world and look at maps, I realized that the ocean um, connects us, but also we talk a lot about how the ocean is our grandmother or ancient grandmother, but also that if you think about the ways the waters connect us, my map now centers what is known as the Pacific Ocean, and I consider all the lands and the peoples around that ocean to be like my distant cousins, my distant family, because we're all on this planet. We have, we're ancient, we're part of this planet. And so like how beautiful it is to relearn how to like perceive the world or see how we're connected. And, I don't doubt that, our peoples were crossing that ocean. Like if our people can make it to Hawaii, then like
Yeah.
the people that knew how to navigate waters and like navigate with stars.
They have come to Central America and
Totally.
Mesoamerica. Yes.
It's just the history that's not told. And so yeah, and also again, like this cover has stars all over it. And so like
Hmm.
the navigating and the remembering of like the ways that we know how to move through the world is so much more ancient and bigger than these colonial ways that we've been taught. Um, but yeah, so as like somebody who comes from Filipino ancestry, I do really feel like I move in a collective way. And honestly, I have to find balance of like sometimes I have to remember myself in the collective, right? Like it's almost opposite. Um, but because I'm a middle sibling, because I grew up with an expansive family, and I grew up with a collective mindset. I do feel like that's why my listening is a magic power because I feel like I was listening and I feel like I could connect to the collective in a way that allows me to perceive the world in a beautiful way, and I'm really grateful for that. Um, and so I do feel like that skill helps me translate stories and words into visuals. Um, yeah, I feel like there was something that I wanted to say related to that, and it's a loose strand.
Hmm.
Mm.
So while it comes to you,
Mm-hmm.
because it will come, um, I actually wanted to say that when I held the first, you know, when I went to Mexico for the solstice in 2024, and I did my peregrinajes, my various, intentional journeys and offerings in Mexico, where Tejiendo, our poetic rematriation with Mother Earth, was born. Um, when I held the first book and I began singing one of the cantos that is included in the book, um, I the first thing that really, caught my attention was, wow, the depth of the waters of the soul,
Mm.
but also the depth of the sky and the navigators. And that moment of seeing the little stars, all over, it was just like this inquiry that came to my heart for the two of us, and and hopefully for those who will continue to weave relationships and continue to deepen our relationships, is
Mm.
this thing about what what is emerging that is inviting us to navigate creatively you know, across cultures, across lineages. And you were centering your Filipino roots, being island people, but also the knowledge of the waters and how your people may have sailed long distances. I mean, they did. In how water connects us, you know, instead of the story we have been told of separation.
Yeah, and it also actually reminds me of another tradition that was taken, not taken from us, but you know, forced out of our practices, but is returning to us. But I'm realizing there's this strand that wants to be said that I don't think I've ever really drawn the connection, but in Filipino cultures, you know, our people were called, when the Spaniards came, they called us the painted ones because we were covered in tattoos. And the way that island people or Filipino people and, you know, different cultures, there's many cultures around the world that wear tattoos to tell their story, right? And so I think it's funny because someone just gifted me this book and I'm not familiar with it. It's just on my table, but it has photos of people, Filipino people with their indigenous tribal tattoos on their bodies. And there's like different symbols that tell their story. And I'm realizing too, I'm like, this is one of the ways that I enjoy making art, especially in collaboration with people, is again, honoring that person's story and sharing that person visually. And again, that takes time and slowness to be able to know that person, to be able to make that art. And that's also why I did not do well in art school when they're like, make this story about this thing and you have 1 week. And I'm like, I take months. Like I spent a long time.
Yes.
Slowness of the drawing, the slowness of the painting. Like I think that's also what made this possible with like the respect that we have for each other in that it will move the way it will move. And of course, we had some like goals, right? Like we had dates to like aim for, but there was also like respecting how long it took for it to be what it became. And I'm really grateful for that because I don't, you know, that's why I'm not an illustrator. Only with my friends or specific projects, right?
Thank you for choosing, for being picky about what you illustrate. I feel honored. And going back to this, you know, ancient practice of having art made in our body, actually here in Mesoamerica, well, it was related to rites of passage.
Exactly.
And in that, in a way, in the through the you know, the each part of the book, that's what how I wanted these pieces in the cover to be brought in their uniqueness, but still being woven by the heart center of the illustration, as in weaving each part and as an ongoing migratory movement. And so the each illustration, when it stands on its own, is really beautiful. I'm like, it's just like, it's like a tattoo or a codex or, you know, something that is speaking like in the silence. It's bold. It's just, do you know what I mean? Like, it's because our traditions too come from oral traditions, oral storytelling. So in painting and other things, so there was not much literature in the sense of, you know, Western perspectives. And so that, I feel that you and I really met each other in exactly in the middle of the bridge, or I don't know how you would call it, if we're like with the metaphor of the waters, right? Like we both sail to a certain point and be like, in that middle island, we will meet and talk and do the whole. then we were like, so yeah,
Yeah.
that tradition that you brought about Filipino cultures
Mm.
make me connect with, many of the ancestral traditions here too, but how also that has changed over time for different reasons.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just full of gratitude for how much learning I experienced too, because I learned obviously a lot about this the medicine wheel, the Mayan cross through our first collaboration, but then also it brought me deeper to make this possible, right? I continue to learn about the different um, symbols, the different
Mhm.
signs for the different days, and it continues to also just expand my understanding of the world, um, and just like it just inspires awe, like I think I love learning about different cultures, different ways of different teachings that are ancient, and there's a reason why it's lasted for so long. And so I'm just really grateful for all the learning that came from it. That shows like the reciprocity, right? Like us coming together in our boats to meet each other and share with each other.
Thank you, Nikki. I'm really, really grateful. You did a great job. And please come learn more about what Nikki does. I will be sharing more their website and stuff. But anything else that you want to share, with the people that will be watching this conversation or listening to our conversation about this collaboration?
Yeah, I think I'll just also share that the journey wasn't so smooth and perfect because so far we've been talking about like it sounds really flowy and cohesive, but I love that you brought up, I think last week, that I spilled water on the first draft. And I was so like I said, there's all this pressure inside of
Yes.
wanting to do my best, but it also was like a humble moment of like, don't go so slow, don't try and control it. Like, guess what? It's a mess, but you'll figure it out. And
Yeah.
literally, it was like the very beginnings of like actual paintbrush onto the sketch. And it survived, obviously, but it was almost like a
It's
humble moment of like,
thriving.
huh?
It's thriving. Me too. There is
Thriving.
people that have in different countries, people, the first reader have already received the book, and the first thing they say is like, this this cover. It's like, and I'm like, I know.
I'm
So it's
so honored.
thriving. So don't. And I remember when you told me, kind of like when you were making a confession, and I was like, and this is something I have learned with you, and our collaborations, not only this one, but previous, is this reminder, because we are both artists, and use different mediums. You are also a poet, so is to really break through the illusion of perfectionism. Because I have, there are a lot of things I would change in the written word that I didn't realize before printing, but then I realized that this is the beautiful thing. It's not made by a machine. That
Yeah.
is, and when you told me, I said, you gotta, we gotta learn how to be more flexible with mistakes becoming reality. Like the messiness is artful, and
Mhm.
and artful in the sense of, what is this trickstery energy reminding us to bring some humor into the seriousness of what we're doing, right?
Exactly. It's like the dance. It's like it's a dance, and that's also life. Like life may have moments of like going like the way that you think you want it to go, and then there'll just be surprises that you have to like adapt to. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. And it would be, I would like us to continue growing, and having more profound, spaces where we can also bring other people into the space of how it can look like, um, to work together, to collaborate together creatively across our differences, which in reality make us, our diversity makes us stronger and more beautiful. And so thank you for being a teacher, a mirror for me. And every time that people receive the book, they're feeling the love you put into, you know, and the love not in the sense of like, oh, everything was like, you know, it's like the tension. Loving is like the nature of the beauty, and the
Mm,
beauty with depth, the beauty with profundity. It touches deeper something in the, you know, in the hearts of the people that experience this art, and your hands, your heart have already touched many. And I want
mm,
to just thank you for, you know, gracias, muchas gracias for accepting to
yeah,
weave with me.
yeah. Thank you. And thank you for the invitation to create this really powerful, it's a prayer. It's a powerful prayer and offering. So I'm really grateful that you invited me to take on this thing that could be intimidating or challenging, but you know, so fruitful and yeah, nurturing.
Yeah. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody who is watching this video or listening to it. And if you have questions, we will have descriptions in the box below.
Thank you.